TGIF. From the KUOW newsroom, this is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Friday, February 13th. In a week of climate change being dismissed by the federal government, we start today with one local repercussion. Washington state's push for a rapid switch to electric vehicles is now in jeopardy, with its ultimate fate likely to be decided in the courts. President Trump on Thursday erased the U.S. government's ability to fight climate-changing pollution. It is now official U.S. policy that climate change does not endanger human welfare. So local efforts now face more of an uphill battle to help preserve a livable climate. Senna Knudsen is a law professor at the University of Washington.
Well, it's radical. It's a big move that would have major implications for how this country addresses greenhouse gas emissions. And it would mean that states become a much more important part of the picture.
Knudsen says the federal action will not derail Washington state's cap on pollution from big industrial emitters. State Attorney General Nick Brown says the action is illegal and will be challenged. In another top story today, a King County man's facing 5 to 7 years in prison for attacking a transgender woman in Seattle last March. Amy Radel has more.
Andre Carlo was part of a group who punched, kicked, and shouted anti-trans slurs at Andy Holsipple, a transgender woman in Seattle's University District. Now a jury has convicted Carlo of second-degree assault and a hate crime, saying he targeted Holsipple over her gender identity. The verdict came as a relief to Lexi Young, a trans woman who Carlo assaulted in 2024.
I'm sad that it happened, that both of us have had to go through this entire process that is heart-wrenching, but I'm relieved that it's all over.
Young testified in this latest trial to show evidence of Carlo's bias against trans people. Holsipple suffered black eyes, broken teeth, and other injuries. Carlo's attorney told jurors the case relied on a politically charged narrative. Amy Radel, KUOW News.
Tech giant Amazon has scrapped its partnership with the police surveillance technology company Flock Safety. This decision came after a Ring Super Bowl ad prompted public backlash. This ad featured a lost dog that's found through a network of cameras and a feature called Search Party. Many expressed fears that the technology could contribute to a dystopian surveillance society. Ring and Flock announced last year they would give their customers the option to share footage in response to requests from law enforcement. A statement from Amazon said the feature was never launched. This coming Tuesday marks an important cutoff in the state legislature. Bills must leave their house of origin by the end of the day to be considered this session. So we're going to talk about a few bills still under consideration. First, a contentious proposal requiring background checks and certification for all law enforcement leaders in Washington. That's passed the state Senate along party lines. Amy Radel has more on this.
Opponents call the bill an attack on the independence of the state's elected sheriffs. The bill would make all sheriffs and chiefs of police subject to the same background checks and eligibility criteria. It would also allow for their replacement if they're decertified for misconduct by the state's Criminal Justice Training Commission. Democrats say Washington is an outlier for not already requiring this. Republicans say voters, rather than a state commission, should get to decide whether to replace a sheriff. The bill is sponsored by John Lovick, a Democrat who formerly served as Snohomish County Sheriff and at the State Patrol. The measure now goes to the House. Amy Radel, KUOW News.
The Washington legislature is also looking at insurance. Stay with me here. More and more homeowners are having a hard time renewing their insurance, possibly due to wildfire risk. More from KNKX environment reporter Bellamy Palethorpe.
State Insurance Commissioner Patty Kuderer is promoting two bills this session. The first requires insurance companies that are using fire risk scores to disclose them, and if it affects homeowners negatively, to explain why.
They are required to tell them not only what the score is, but how they can improve their score.
Some of those measures might be as simple as moving a woodpile away from the house. For more costly items, Couderer is proposing a pilot program to provide grants to homeowners for retrofits. Several representatives from the insurance industry have testified against the bills, cautioning that overly restrictive new regulations could drive up costs for policyholders. I'm Bellamy Palethorpe reporting.
If you're a smoker, your cigarettes may get a lot more expensive. State lawmakers are considering raising the tobacco tax. The Seattle Times says the increase would make Washington's one of the highest tobacco taxes in the country. The new rate would be $5.03 per pack in the state. Supporters say this is important revenue for the state as lawmakers work to balance the budget. Lawmakers that oppose the bill argue the cost would be passed on to business owners. A string of grocery store closures has inspired a collection of bills aimed at improving grocery and food access. Legislation advancing in the State House and Senate would make it easier for grocery stores to open in underserved neighborhoods and require stores to give notice if they're closing in a food desert. State Representative Daria Farivar authored a bill to change the zoning rules that are meant to stifle competition that she says are a key barrier to food access. A Kroger store in her district in North Seattle was among the closures last year.
When major grocery stores like Fred Meyer leave, we want to be able to encourage other grocery stores to come into the space, other pharmacies to come into this space so that we're not creating a food desert.
Representatives for grocery stores are supportive of the zoning changes idea, but are concerned about other possible regulations burdening store owners. A few stories before we send you off into a holiday weekend. The numbers for Wednesday's Seahawks parade are slowly coming in, and Sound Transit says more than 200,000 people boarded the light rail to attend the parade. Officials say Wednesday's ridership was the highest ever for the region. Washington State Ferries reported a 25% increase in riders. In case you need some travel plans for the long weekend, time is running out for folks to visit the beloved Reptile Zoo in Monroe. After being open for 3 decades, it's finally set to close for good on Monday. The owner announced last summer he was closing up shop because of rising operating costs and other issues, but he was able to delay the closure because of all the people who came to show support. Most of the zoo's 130 reptiles have already found new homes and will start making the move next week. So Monday will be your last chance to see Pete and Repeat, the two-headed turtle. And we'll close on some Olympics news. The first full week of competition's coming to an end, and the Northwest continues to have a big presence. About 20 athletes with ties to the Northwest are competing in these games. A note, there could be spoilers from here on. Today, the USA showed just how dominant it is in women's hockey. The women's team beat Italy 6-0 in the quarterfinals. Team USA is captained by Seattle Torrent stars Alex Carpenter and Hillary Knight. They play in the semifinals Monday. In other events, tomorrow morning, Kirkland's Cooper McLeod races in the 500-meter skate, and Federal Way's Corinne Stoddard races in the 3,000-meter relay. Next week on Seattle Now, we'll get into the latest shots fired data from King County and how law enforcement are thinking about the continued effort to decrease gun violence. Hear more Tuesday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Vaughn Jones, who will be watching the NBA All-Star Game this weekend and who got a coveted Valentine's Day reservation. Nice. I'm Paige Browning. I'll be enjoying Olympics and a lot of Valentine's treats. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See you next week.